Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Konrad Gorlinski and this is the news. Well, an act of desertion committed by Polish army soldier Emil Czeczko was immediately utilized by Lukashenko's propaganda machinery. The defector, in an interview broadcast by state-owned Belarusian television, claimed that the Polish border guard was shooting at volunteers assisting migrants in Poland. Meanwhile, in the last 24 hours, there were yet more attempts to illegally cross the Polish border.
Somewhere there, some volunteer ran up and started asking, "Where are you taking them?" And then the guy from the border guard just simply shot them in the head. I witnessed 2 situations like this. You saw this with your own eyes? Yes. Polish guards? Yes. 2 times? Yes. This is something quite lamentable. A betrayal of one's country, a betrayal of one's relatives, a betrayal of one's colleagues, and of the uniform. These fables that he's recounting have been used by the Belarusian regime because stories about executions of volunteers by the Polish military, nobody believes them. It's just ridiculous. Even if this person here worked with the Belarusian regime, this cooperation couldn't have been very significant. He had a very low rank.
In an interview with Frankfurter Allgemeine Sonntagszeitung this afternoon, Vice-Chancellor Robert Habeck of the Greens threatened to stop the controversial Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline in the event of a Russian attack on Ukraine. He also admitted that geopolitically, the entire project has been a mistake.
Any further military aggression cannot be left without serious consequences, Habeck said in an interview with FAZ. Habeck also stressed that geopolitically the pipeline has always been a mistake and that all European countries except Germany and Austria have always been against it. The Federal Network Agency, which reports to Habeck as Minister of Economy, will decide on the launch of the NS2 in accordance with European and national law. Since the owner of the network and its operator have to be separated to prevent monopolies and hence dependencies, the matter is not entirely up to the ministry. The agency will examine the documents in accordance with the law as it should be done, said Habeck. At his first EU summit in Brussels, Chancellor Olaf Scholz of the SPD described the pipeline project as a private sector project and the network agency's decision as completely apolitical. He stressed that this was a different matter than the previous efforts to prevent violations of Ukrainian borders. The gas pipeline has already been completed, but due to the lack of permits and certificates, it has not yet been launched. The United States and some EU countries, including Poland, which Scholz visited on December 12th during his second trip abroad, strongly opposed this, recalls the FAZ.
Germany's center-right Christian Democrats have elected Frederick Mars as the leader to follow Armin Laschet, who lost September's national election to Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democrats. His election is seen as a chance to reconnect with their core constituency.
Merz, a right-winger, is popular with party membership and has promised a break with the centrist course pursued by Angela Merkel during her 16-year tenure as chancellor. I know what's coming our way. I know what it means for me personally, but I accept this nomination from our members. I look forward to working well with everybody. His rivals, Norbert Röttgen and Helge Braun, have both positioned themselves as Merkel's heirs. The 66-year-old succeeded in his third attempt to win the party's presidency, gaining 62.1% of the membership votes. The true CDU is back. Bottom line, I think that the Liberal Conservative Party had simply alienated itself from its brand core, and for some 26 elections. We've lost 25 of them by a landslide, and as far as I'm concerned, it was high time to think about whether we are still serving the right people, or whether we should continue to turn to the SPD for swing voters. A lawyer from Western Germany, Merz was a senior legislator in the early 2000s before quitting to pursue a lucrative career with asset manager BlackRock. He returned to the German parliament in 2021.
The United Nations has stated that it is concerned by the reinstatement by Joe Biden of a policy put in place by former President Donald Trump that forced tens of thousands of migrants to wait in Mexico for the resolution of their U.S. asylum cases. The decision comes as illegal migration is at a record high.
A U.S. appeals court on Monday rejected a renewed attempt by the Biden administration to end the policy, often referred to as Remain in Mexico and officially called the Migrant Protection Protocols. President Joe Biden, a Democrat, scrapped his Republican predecessor's policy soon after taking office in January this year. But after Texas and Missouri sued over the rescission, a federal judge ruled it had to be reinstated.
We are concerned about the reimplementation of the Migrant Protection Protocol and the risk that it poses on the already stretched humanitarian capacity of Mexico to receive migrants. Now, we stress that the US and Mexican authorities should ensure adequate shelter, access to health and medical attention, improved access to legal assistance, and address the local security conditions, and that the returns are effectively coordinated among them.
Under the 2019 policy, migrants seeking asylum must wait weeks and sometimes years in Mexico for a U.S. court date instead of being allowed to await their hearings in the United States.
Yes, we are concerned that any kind of heightened security procedures to deal with migration will only drive migrants further into unsafe routes, and we're afraid that we'll be seeing more resort to dangerous routes.
Many migrants arrested at the border, however, are quickly expelled without being given a chance to even seek asylum under a different Trump policy put in place at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, which Biden has also kept in place.
And finally, Britain's financial regulator has fined HSBC Bank more than $85 million for failings in its anti-money laundering processes. The decision comes as the pressure is increasing on regulators to take stricter action against the malpractices banks often employ to increase their profits.
The Financial Conduct Authority said it had found that 3 key parts of HSBC's transaction monitoring system in Britain showed serious weaknesses over a period of 8 years from March 31, 2010 to March 31, 2018. On Monday, HSBC's domestic rival NatWest was fined £265 million by a British court for failing to prevent the laundering of nearly £400 million, some of it deposited at a branch in garbage bags. The FCA said HSBC had made a string of failings, including inadequate monitoring of money laundering and terrorist financing scenarios until 2014, and poor risk assessment of new scenarios after 2016. The bank was also found to have had inappropriate testing and did not check the accuracy and completeness of data in monitoring systems. The bank has had to tighten up its money laundering controls globally after a string of past scandals. In 2012, it had to pay a $1.9 billion fine to U.S. regulators for serving as a middleman for Mexican drug cartels and was monitored for 5 years. The FCA said its fine did not relate to the U.S. action.
As usual, thanks for tuning in with us this evening. Please stick around for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and other programs. But for me, it's have a great Saturday night.